right, we're doing episode 71, Three Bros Podcast. Got everybody back on the show where we read articles and act like we know what we're talking about.
Oh, but it feels so right to shoot from the hip.
Sure. I do enough non-fart smelling. I got to fart smell once in a while, right? You know, it's just
That's true.
You got to do it.
That's true.
Sure. Got to keep yourself grounded in.
Take an hour
Actually,
a
I
week.
guess hided in. All right.
Smell your farts.
The first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I'll go first with like the things that I've been seeing and my thoughts, is just my confusion over the amount of people who the amount of people that just like don't understand how marginal tax rates work. So I posted a couple of things to you guys during the week. Specifically AOC has tweeted a couple times about it and kind of called out a couple people for not knowing. That's the thing. And this is what I want to ask you guys about and what I want to talk about. It's not necessarily knowing how marginal tax rates work. It gets to a point, because it's happened a few times now since like she announced that she would want to tax the highest rate at 70% every dollar after 10 million to fund her Green New Deal initiative. And I feel like everything can be played for a power gain. And I feel like there are people who are just straight up just fear-mongering about tax rates for political power without actually like being truthful at all. And I'm just going to share one that I shared with you guys. Because like I know fear-mongering is kind of an aggressive term to use, but this is like I feel no other way about this tweet that she responded to. And I think, did you guys see it was the one from Chad? Did you see the one from Scott Walker or Caleb? It was like the one. So I found it. Here we go.
Vaguely.
So Scott Walker originally tweeted, explaining tax rates before Reagan to fifth graders. Imagine if you did chores for your grandma and she gave you $10. When you got home, your parents took $7 from you. The student said, that's not fair. And he goes, even fifth graders get it. Which, yeah, anybody, you tell them they're going to get their first $10 they made, $7 is taken away just because that's pretty awful. But then she referenced this tweet and tweeted herself, explaining marginal taxes to a far-right former governor. Imagine if you did chores for Abuela and she gave you $10. When you got home, you got to keep it because it's only $10. Then we taxed the billionaire in town because he's making tons of money underpaying the townspeople. So there's obviously things you can criticize from both sides about that. I get that. I just Scott Walker is a 8-year, 2-term governor of a state in what we all love and know as the great United States of America. I feel like it just saddens me that, and I know I'm picking, but still, I'm picking at something that specifically saddened me. Just like, how could you be a 2-term governor and not understand how marginal tax rates work? So I feel like the only reason this is being done is for political power. Scott Walker is smarter than this. I know he's smarter than this. And the only reason, go ahead.
Well, because people eat that stuff up is why he says stuff like that in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it goes the same the other way, right? With Cortez, people eat that same stuff up.
Okay, but in this
Sure.
tweet, she is specifically correct, and he is specifically incorrect about things that she said. And he is fear-mongering because she specifically, or anybody who talks about a marginal tax rate higher for earners for every dollar past X amount, which Caleb obviously described perfectly in the beginning. It's just, why, like, come on. She talks specifically in nuanced policy. And if Scott Walker came out and said, well, I disagree that every dollar after 10 million should be taxed at 70% because blah, blah, blah. I'd like to know what that is, but that's not what he's saying. So,
well, I would say that don't you think that's a bit excessive? 70% is that's a big number, right?
If you've already made $10 million in a year. So, look,
how many people, well, here's the thing, right? How many people are earning 10 million straight up?
And a lot of people, more than ever.
Well, sure, maybe more than ever, but that's still not a ton of people. Like a lot of people build wealth through things like the net worth of a company, not through actual dollars being input into my bank account, right?
Okay.
So like, well, that's my
Regardless,
question. My
even if
question
there's
is
just
how
one
much that would
person-
actually raise that much more money. It's
okay,
just a
fine.
question.
And
That's all.
that's fair. And someone crunch the numbers, and I will find them right now and post them for you. I don't know who did, and we can haggle all we want on the source.
Sure.
But I mean, my point is,
Well, it's certainly not marginal
if
rates.
you live in a,
I mean, we've seen these rates before.
if we live in a society where we create excessive wealth, do we not want to make sure that equality of opportunity and everyone's needs are met? Because they are not currently.
Whoa,
That's always.
I'm not
Oh, go ahead.
disagreeing with you. I'm merely stating that 70% after 10 million is quite a bit.
And that's you.
That's all I'm saying. It's
Of
just
course it is. But $10 million is a lot of money to make in a year.
Sure.
And there is a moral question to ask there too. And look, I think, especially from AOC's point of view, and this is why I tend to agree with her on this. When we face devastating things like climate change, what do? She's actually coming up with a plan. And she's saying we could tax dollars at this level, dollars that are, dollars that are earned after such extreme wealth has already been earned, that it's fair to say if we're facing a catastrophic change on our planet and we need to address it somehow, then maybe we could raise enough money by taxing that extreme wealth. You know what I'm saying? That feels like a solid argument to me.
Sure. Again,
and we can go ahead into the nuance of the policy if we want. Oh, go ahead.
I'm not trying to disagree with that specific statement. I just think that it's got to be also more than just I'm going to tax a lot of money. Like, what exactly are you going to do with it? What is the purpose of? Because specifically, she cited climate change, right?
Sure.
How is that money? Like, what are we going to do with that money? Is it going directly into research, or what would actually be done with it? And to me, those are the tougher questions, right? Because it's easy to boast about numbers and say we're going to, this is something that I'm for. It's excellent. Okay, cool. You have a plan. I get that. You're heading in a direction, but you've got to give me more than just that. And I don't know. She might have. I don't know the answer.
I was about to tell you she does, but go ahead.
Okay. What is I would like to.
Just go to her website, dog. What are you asking me for?
I'm asking you because I'll tell you why. Because I'm busy as fuck. And not
that was about to be my point. You're getting so nuanced about this. Like none of us. Look, we are. And I'll give you an answer. We are losing the game of this planet, and if we want, we have a choice to make. And if we want to, hang on, let me finish. If we want to haggle over the details, and I always come back to you when I have a conversation with you about stuff. If we want to haggle over perfection, then we can just go ahead and fuck ourselves, or we can actually do something about it. And even if her plan isn't perfect, if you want to haggle over what her plan is, then you need to come up with your own plan. If you're going to criticize it, I want to hear what you would do.
But hold on.
Then let's talk about her plan.
You're twisting it.
Better for the planet.
I'm not trying to criticize it. I'm asking what it is because I don't know.
It's on our website. I do know it's on our website.
So can you paraphrase it? Can you at least give me an idea of what direction it's going in? If you have read it?
I have not read it.
Oh.
I do not want to get in the nuance because neither one of us has read it. Let's talk general surface. This is what frustrates me about you. Let's talk general surface.
Okay. Okay.
How about this? Do you want to argue for inactivity? Go ahead.
I'm not arguing for inactivity.
What are you arguing for on the surface? Because
I'm merely just asking what the plan is.
And I'm telling you, I don't know what her plan is. I don't get into nuance.
Then this is a worthless conversation.
Let's move on. You started it by asking.
Chad, referee.
Go ahead,
referee. Well, the original point of the conversation was
if people don't understand tax hierarchies.
Yeah. So a bit of a deviation there.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, if you wanted to referee, I'm telling you, you're off the beaten path, brother.
That's true. That's a fair point.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that.
Neither do I.
Okay, so if we go not nuanced, Cyril, right? You're taxing. You have this plan, and this is what you're going to do. Who is it that you're taxing? Are you taxing individuals?
Yes.
Why wouldn't we tax corporations?
How would that work?
I don't know. What do they tax at right now?
The marginal tax rates apply to individuals and individuals only. I don't.
Sure, no, I get that, but
Yeah.
but why not tax corporations as opposed to individuals? Like, if we're being honest, when it comes
That's
to
fine.
the environment,
That's fine.
a lot of that is produced by corporations. So why not make the argument the other way around, especially for those industries in which are really destroying the industry or the planet, I should say, right?
I agree.
Natural gas, oil, plastics.
Yeah, I agree. On the face value, I agree with the general statement that we should probably tax. Listen, I would rather tax corporate profits before income tax. I've been on the record as saying that I think, especially for people who live below a certain income level in this country, income tax is dumb. Why would you tax people for working? You want people to work. So yeah, let's do the corporate.
Well, I'm
just confused as to why we get a whole bunch of people in this country who don't seem to understand what marginal tax rates are. And the only explanation I have is that they're lying for political power. There's no other explanation when you're a 2-term, 8-year governor for a state.
Well,
go ahead. What is it?
I would make the argument that this just goes to show you the kind of caliber that are being, of people that are being put into office. If I'm being honest, that's what it tells me. I genuinely believe Scott Walker had no fucking idea because he's probably never done his own taxes in his life.
You honestly believe?
Yes, I do.
A 2-term governor
doesn't
understand how tax rates work.
He's not the IRS. He doesn't handle money within the government. He doesn't do the budget. He's not part of the budget office. He's not part of the IRS. He's not part of any of those things.
He literally signs bills into law.
Do you think he reads every single bill?
I hope he does.
He doesn't.
He better.
No, I can tell
every governor should.
I can tell you that every governor does.
Well, then they're dumb.
Every congressperson, every governor, every
but I don't like that.
board. You can like it or not. It doesn't matter.
We should change the rules.
I'm telling you quite literally. I think that this is what it is.
That sounds like you're making excuses for him. You're a 2-term governor. Know how things work if you're going to be in government. It's sad.
You don't have to though. Donald Trump is the fucking president. You can't say things like that anymore.
And he should read. And he should be reading everything. He should be.
Although I agree with you, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. So let's
I agree. And especially at a presidential and obviously at a governor level, you can't read everything that comes across your desk. But not understanding, you're getting beside the point. You always do. Not understanding how just marginal tax rates work is sad.
I'm not saying it's not sad.
Oh, I mean, and
it is sad. But I'm also telling you this is the caliber of person that we are voting into office.
We ask ourselves at that point.
Somebody getting a phone call, by the way?
We ask ourselves at that point.
Not me.
Why is it that they don't understand? Or I ask myself.
Okay.
And it's just.
I think that they don't understand because generally speaking, and this is a vast generalization, people who are politicians make a ton of money and don't do their own taxes.
Well, it's either actual ignorance or just an intention to mislead people. I mean, it's one of the two.
And I tend to lean towards, especially given the state of politics today, towards complete ignorance.
I don't know. On Scott Walker's behalf, like, you must know how marginal. You're not talking about, like, he doesn't have to be part of the IRS to know how marginal taxes work.
Yeah,
right? I feel like this is something you learn in economics in high school.
I understand that, but that doesn't mean that he did that.
I guess so. I would just hope that somebody elected to an office like that would just have the general knowledge and world experience to know how marginal tax rates work.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you guys can also attest to this, right? As a politician, I would have to imagine that you want to talk about a hardcore echo chamber. That's got to be the hardest of most echo chambers you could ever be a part of. Is right? Something like that. So if you sit there and you listen to people who are, in fact, intentionally trying to mislead you, maybe who are lobbying, right? And you take that as fact, and you go on Twitter and you espouse it as truth. Although it does make you look like a fucking dumbass, it doesn't mean that he did that with ill intent. I still believe that this man just doesn't know.
Well, it's interesting because there was another quote from Ocasio-Cortez on Twitter, and somebody tweeted at her and said, "When you start getting your paycheck taxed at 70%, then I'll take you seriously."
Right.
And she tweeted something back like, well, since I'm a member of Congress, I'm probably not going to make $10 million a year, so I don't have to worry about that. Because that's not how marginal tax
rates work. Right.
Again, no one's disputing that. But
right.
Well, they're clearly disputing that.
Well, I think, again, Cyril. Don't
Go
you think
ahead.
we're going to a bit of the fringe, like the extreme?
Mm-mm. I think that AOC brings an actual plan, and I know I don't know it.
You think
But
70%?
That's okay that you don't know it.
How about this? I appreciate that she does have a plan. She does have a way to actually pay for it, as opposed to a lot of the decisions that both sides make. You are correct, especially the one that burns me is last year. Two things: the tax cuts and the raising of defense spending when we don't have the money.
Right.
So the idea that we have money from thin air for some things, but we can't do them for other things, makes me upset. And we always say, listen, we'll respect you, we'll listen to you if you have a way, if you have a plan and you have a way forward, and you can tell me how you're going to do this, this, and this. Well, she does. And everybody, and it feels like people who are against climate change, all they do is just fear monger, and like they bang their drums and like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Well, look, she's trying to do something about it. So, and look, if something, all I'll say is this, and you guys can go ahead really quickly before we move on. If something bad does happen to this planet down the road, then people like her are going to be remembered for like, dang, like we wish we did something. And whether or not you agree with 70% tax rate, even after the $10 million earned, I get it, but you know, man.
No,
We'll see
again,
what happens.
I feel like I have to reiterate. I don't necessarily oppose the fact that it's 70% at $10 million. What I'm disputing currently now is the fact that you believe Scott Walker is intentionally fear-mongering.
I do.
Okay, that's fair. I'm just not. I'm not very convinced. I'm more convinced that he's a moron as opposed to being.
Another side of it is: do you think that there is a section of the populace that is effective with, and it will legitimately rile up some sort of?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, for sure.
The rhetoric doesn't work unless people are willing to buy into it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just hot air.
But I just. Maybe I'm just being, naive. I genuinely believe that Scott Walker is probably more likely to be a trust fund baby that's never done taxes, as opposed to someone who actually understands, at least at the most basic level,
I believe
tax law.
Scott Walker is one of the few governors that did not graduate from college at all. So not that means anything to his background, but I remember hearing that one time.
Well, it kind of does.
So if that's the case, he seems like a not like a too privileged of a background person to me.
Okay, that's fair. How much do you think Scott Walker's worth?
But that doesn't also mean he understands taxes.
Right.
So it's all semantics, I mean,
I just feel like for me, it's more likely, and I feel the same for those on the left who might do something similar, where we feel like it's fear mongering, but really it's a combination of ignorance as well as that echo chamber of I don't know I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it.
People buying into your dogma.
Right, exactly. And when you're surrounded by that constantly 24/7, it's easy to just continue to espouse that this is actually real. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And to me, I feel like that's the more likely scenario, as opposed to him legitimately fear-mongering people.
Well, either way, he's a shitty politician then.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, you're not getting any disagreement.
There you go.
Either way from that. But the question for me is always intent. Are you intending to be a piece of shit, or are you just a dumbass? Because those are
you a piece of shit just by default? Sure.
I don't know. For me, that differentiation is actually important, because that's how I rate most people, right? Are you intentionally being terrible, or do you just not understand what the hell is going on?
I love that that's how you rate most people.
You have to.
Most people don't know what the fuck's going on.
I mean, am I wrong?
Wow, there it is. There it is.
Am I wrong?
All right. I'm no comment.
Okay, all right. I'm going to take that as I might be right.
Nah, you're going to take that as a no comment. All right, so next article. Which one did you want to go last, Cyril?
There have been people on both sides of the aisle that have called for, and I applaud, I think it was like Lee Zeldin is a Republican and AOC on the other side, both called for nobody getting paid during the shutdown. Nobody in Congress or in government getting, like, the president, and which I don't know why they even get paid. That makes no sense to me.
Can I briefly?
Go ahead.
How is it? I think I said this last time. How is this still legal?
I don't
shut
know.
the government down. How is this still legal?
And even if it is, I don't know why it's still legal. Why they still get their paychecks when nobody else does? I'm like, really?
Well, forget
That seems so
paychecks
gross.
aside, right?
Yeah, sure.
Forget all that aside. How is this legal? There needs to be, if you ask me, an amendment at this point to the Constitution that says you are not allowed to shut down the government, save for a crisis of war or or some other like
Yeah.
insane fucking
No, I agree with that.
situation. But this holding the government itself and the functions and duties of the government hostage because you're not getting what you want to get, and this has been done by both sides, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. This time
It's
I feel like
bullshit.
it's just. This time I feel like it's just because of the wall. I feel like
It is
because of the.
wall. And the last
feel
time
like-
wasn't it Obamacare? And then
Yeah,
the
it
time
was.
Before that was some like the
Well-
Iraq War or some shit.
And this time I feel like it's because Trump has a base that wants the wall, and if he doesn't get anything else, then they're going to be upset. So he knows he can't.
Sure. Right.
And then for the Democrats,
the government,
it's all about playing to their. It's all about playing to their base. And then for the
sure.
Democrats,
And I get that they have to.
Well,
do
and there's
that.
also
I
an
understand that they have to do what they
There's
got
also
to do.
an-
I get it.
Yeah. I would say there's also a strong argument against how walls are stupid and how you should just like do drones and more surveillance at entry ports. And for empty spaces, then you should just hire more patrol people. Dude, walls are so just
Yeah,
feels
but you
like,
have to remember that this guy's he's a builder.
oh Jesus.
Like that's
So
his
anyway,
whole
got all
brand.
that
That's
going.
his whole thing.
Got all that going on. Chad, go ahead and
Well, if you're not going to get reelected in 2020 and you've lost the House to the Democrats, he has no legacy at this point. I mean, what has he really passed? Not much.
I believe at this point
Not much.
he will go down as the worst president of all time.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get
We've had
impeached.
some pretty bad presidents.
Yeah. I
So
think he's just
anyways,
gonna be bad.
yeah,
But
Chad's-
sure, let's move on.
Chad's article that he posted is about the mudslinging about like the State of the Union and the foreign trip.
Oh, Nancy
And like,
Pelosi.
I'm glad we opened up with Caleb saying that and me like saying what I said, because it's like, dude, I don't know why you were going on this trip anyways. The government's closed, and why would you do the State of why would you do the State of the Union when the government's closed? Just work on opening it, then you can do the State of the Union the next day, and then you can go on your trip.
State of the Union.
Sure. So
We
let's
don't
frame
have
this.
one.
Yeah, just do it the next day after you open it. Yeah.
So Nancy Pelosi sends Trump a letter, right? Because she is the Speaker of the House, and how does it work, Cyril? The president
You
is
do
formally
technically-
invited
Yeah,
to do the State of the Union, because it used to be
Correct. the Congress.
in writing or something like that.
I don't know. I think we looked that up. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some historicity to it, but the precedent was that
made
the
it work?
House, the Speaker of the House, sends an invitation to the president to come give a State of the Union address. So she sends him a letter saying, "Hey, due to like security concerns, since all the employees are furloughed right now, and due to the government being shut down, maybe we should delay the State of the Union, or you can submit your State of the Union in a letter to the House." So Trump, of course, gets pissed off about this. And Nancy Pelosi apparently had a foreign trip scheduled, like a 9-day foreign trip, where she was going to go to Afghanistan and she was going to go to Brussels, something to do with like NATO and talking to allies in Afghanistan. I don't know.
Yeah.
But literally, they're getting on a bus, Nancy Pelosi and like her whole entourage, and like within an hour of her
Oh yeah. So
planned to be departed, he calls her up and says,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm executive leader. I run the military, and you're not allowed to use our military planes for this trip because of the shutdown." So he essentially does a tit for tat sort of deal.
Sure.
Obviously just to get in her face about it. But like both of these people, they're both playing petty games. A, Nancy Pelosi shouldn't have done anything. B, Trump shouldn't have replied. But they're both just like playing petty games because the government's shut down right now and they can't figure anything out. But you're right, Cyril. I mean, why are we giving a State of the Union if the government's shut down? A, and B, if the government's shut down, why is the Speaker of the House going on a 9-day trip overseas? Like, what do you mean? We're shut down right now. Doesn't make sense, especially being the Speaker of the House. Where are you going?
That's the thing. I
So stupid.
I feel like at this point, if I ever ran for Congress, I would only run on one platform, and that is that you can shut the government down, but the first people to be shut down is Congress itself.
No paychecks, and nobody can go.
paychecks.
You can't break. You can't go on break. You can't go on vacation. Congress can't like dismiss until you figure this out. Because like,
Right.
why are we shut down?
Go ahead, order some Domino's, bitch. You're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah, but that's coming out of their pocket.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But staffers still get paid because it's not their fault. You know what I mean? The janitor still gets paid.
Yeah, sure.
But it really should go from the top down. If you, Senate and Congress can't get this figured out, and the president, you don't get paid.
Yeah, this one's not difficult.
Petty, man. It's just petty garbage, and this is why.
Yeah, this one's not difficult.
Yeah, there's not much disagreement here. It's just dumb games, dumb political games. Figure your shit out. Trump, be a leader. Nancy, where are you going? Be a leader.
Right. Well, that's the thing too. Is Nancy be a leader?
Oh, obviously, yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer. What's Chuck Schumer's friggin' deal?
Just get some more money for general border stuff, and you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit more conservative when it comes to immigration and border protection. I just think a wall is a waste of money. There are better ways to protect your border.
Yeah.
Technology is
Also,
a thing.
I get so tired of like just people that are like, oh, the border is like a crisis and it's so terrible. I'm like, yo, we have border patrol to the tune of like, I think it's like 10,000 on the southern border, right? And then you got customs and whatever the heck. We're already doing a lot. I'm not saying we don't need to do more. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like the idea that like we're doing nothing is just feels so dumb to me. I'm like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the southern border is the primary place of entry, but we do have a pretty bad problem with the number of illegals we have.
Well, when we were like lightly chatting about it before,
it's a lot of people.
Earlier today, I told you like it's when people are like, oh, there's heroin that comes across the border, and there's like 300 people a week that die from overdoses of illegal heroin smuggled across the border. It's like, yeah, that's pretty bad. But also, like, are we not prioritizing the fact that like thousands of people die every week from the opioid crisis, which is mainly pharmaceutical companies?
Right.
It's like, come on, yo.
Where's the real crisis?
We're not prioritizing anything. When you don't prioritize things that in a way that like legitimately makes sense by the numbers, then it just feels like to me you're pandering. I'm like, why are you like, just like the 15 people that they had their there was like 15 mothers at Speaker Pelosi's office, and they all had sons or daughters that were killed by illegal immigrants, and that's terrible. And I hope every single one of those illegal immigrants that killed those people were prosecuted to the full extent. But the idea that 15 people, if it was just 15 people, $20 billion wall, we need to prioritize things that are bad in our country, And I've said it many a time, like just one person going hungry or one person dying when they didn't need to is a tragedy. But, there's also there's got to be a list of priorities that we need to deal with things.
Right. Like if your primary concern is American lives, then there are bigger things facing us.
Oh, definitely. Richard Ojeda, in one of his what a wonderful man. In one of his things that I shared, it was like, we've lost more people to the opioid crisis than Vietnam, Korea, and I think both the modern wars combined. It's like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? These people are just dying. And some of it might be stuff that you can't control, and bad things happen because you can't literally control everyone's decision making. But there's study after study that shows like people just go in for, a regular pain thing, or they have a small amount of pain, and doctors are just like, just take a prescription painkiller, like go for it. It's like, oh my goodness, it's so dangerous. So just got to prioritize things better. That's how I feel about it.
Fair.
So
be better leaders.
Oh, sure. Also, if you open up the government again, how about you figure out how to make us be in the positive for once? Figure it out.
Speaking of specifically, I know we haven't really gone over anything. I know I haven't submitted an article like I normally do, but this will be super quick for you guys.
Go ahead.
This is from the Washington Post by Christopher Ingram. The headline is, a pharma company that spent $500,000 trying to keep pot illegal just got DEA approval for synthetic marijuana. There's also another one. I should find it. There was another pharmaceutical company that was bribing Congress and whatnot to keep marijuana illegal and he didn't get any jail time or anything, or it's just how is it that we allow people that make opioids, to have that level of influence over the government? I got to find the exact article.
Well, also the context matters there. Like, how dangerous is marijuana compared to opioids? Like, that's crazy. There's a wild difference between how dangerous it is to like someone's actual life. And marijuana's Schedule 1. Like, that's one of the most ironic things. We no country's perfect on this planet. Each country has its flaws. But man, one of the ones that just slaps you in the face with like make no sense is the fact that marijuana is a Schedule 1 drug. Like, really? Are you kidding me? Like, that's not being honest about the dangers to the human body at all. At all. Like, that's crazy. Ugh. And obviously we don't want every single person in society smoking marijuana, but come on, man. Like, we can't regulate it like alcohol. We can. Tax it and pay for healthcare. It's too easy.
Tax it and reverse global warming.
You tax the bad habits of society to pay for the shortcomings of society. It's not difficult. Figure it out.
Well, how is marijuana the bad part of society?
Well, not even bad, but I mean, it's still
distinction.
It still makes you feel a type of way, and it's still like contributed to, maybe just generally things maybe not being as efficient as they otherwise should have. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say like, man. No, I don't disagree with you.
For as many people that smoke weed and play video games stereotypically and drink Mountain Dew and eat Doritos and never leave their mom's basement, there's just as many high-strung out, business people who are under insane amounts of stress, and they get through their day and they're able to remain a functioning member of society by just smoking a little weed before bed.
Anybody with PTSD, anybody with glaucoma. I remember watching an old documentary where it's like, if you have glaucoma, it actually like helps you keep your eyesight. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can use.
How about all the
no doubt
all the epileptic kids who can have normal fucking lives?
Sure. Then regulate it.
Right. Listen, I agree with you. I'm 100% with you on that one. Just appropriate regulations and not just that, but also an ever flourishing competitive market, because you always want them to be growing and producing and developing the best of the best, right? And the reason why you want that is because there's the potential for it to be medicinally used.
Yeah, right. For studying.
Because I'm gonna speak out of turn here because I don't have my sources, but there's a state that was looking at and thinking about creating it so that there's only one grower and distributor that would handle the whole state. Like, that's a good way to get bad shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, without having appropriate regulation and the competitiveness of business, you're not going to get the best of the best. And that's the whole point of a capitalist market, is to get the best of the best at the best price, at the cheapest price, et cetera. The whole 9 yards, No,
of course. Competition is always positive for society, no question.
As long as it's regulated competition, as long as it's appropriate competition, absolutely.
That's true. There's always a push and pull.
Of course.
But listen, I'm just generally a fan of like tax things. I never obviously I'm not a huge smoker, but I've had
As I hear a lighter.
No, I'm talking about cigarettes, but okay. I was about to say,
it sounded like somebody was lighting. Like, I'm not that big a smoker.
I didn't even hear that.
That's what it sounded like.
I'll listen to it back when I go through it and edit it, but I'm gonna leave it in. But
it was there.
I smoke a cigarette or two when I'm drunk a lot, but I used to dip a lot, and I mean, it was way cheaper in Georgia, and so I did it a lot more. And then when I moved home here, it was a lot more expensive, so I didn't. And I'm not upset about that. Like, I think there's no question that like you should tax the bad habits of society to discourage / like, I mean, you need funding somehow, so you might as well do it that way. And then,
well, also to offset, sort of mitigate the costs of what people participating in that behavior have to deal with. You know what I mean? Like, say if you're a drinker, we tax it because people do abuse it a bit, and we pay a bit more in healthcare costs as a result.
Oh, right. And there's that angle to it too. Yeah.
I mean, if you take that angle, where does a McDonald's cheeseburger lie?
I agree. There should be fast food taxes. Absolutely, I agree.
That's
we should take.
What if you tax
even personally? I'm not
every-
trying to be a shitbag, but that's my vice.
Oh sure, I go to fast food
Fucking
places.
food.
What if we
tax it?
What if we taxed like 1 or 2 cents on every single item that you purchased from like a fast food place?
Well, now you have to define fast food.
That would generate a tremendous amount of revenue.
It would
That's
generate
fair.
a
I'm
ton of
just
revenue.
speaking in generalizations, but no, that's the same thing. Like if
Listen,
it's something that's not good for you,
when you can buy 10 chicken nuggets for $1 from Burger King, we need to
Excuse me, let's be very clear. It is 99 cents.
My apologies. Look, there's not even tax on it. Unbelievable.
Right. But I get it,
saying.
and I also argue the other way for the
Tax
most
it.
part, and that is,
sure.
the freedom to do whatever the fuck it is you want to do. You want to sit there and eat yourself to death, more power to you. But
sure, but you got to pay a bit more.
You should incur said cost of those choices,
Right.
I've always been
We're not telling you can't do it. We're just saying you got to offset, a little bit of that burden now because you wanted to smoke a pack of cigarettes a day.
Right. For me, when it came to healthcare, I feel like I've been a fan lately of the kind of like the 21 and older model, if you will, where if you're 21, that your healthcare is paid for, and once you hit 21, like the choices you make are you're on your own. Not necessarily that, obviously not everyone has a health condition that is completely self-inflicted, but
yeah,
we make sure you make it to be a functioning adult, and then at that point you're on your own. You get health insurance through where you work, or
what if you work 40 hours
like
a week at a place and they don't really offer any health benefits?
Well, you would. I feel you would still have a market in which the government helps to operate, or helps to try to subsidize some of those costs.
And that's what it is now, Medicaid.
Right, but
X is that.
But specifically,
as long as you work, then I don't. Yeah, as long as you work, I don't really care. If you don't work, then I don't want to hear this. But if you work, then yeah, you should have health care and be able to feed your family and whatever. All right. Anyways, let's move on to this last thing. Sorry. Boys and girls want to hear about it. Oh no worries. We all got a little off track there, as we always do. It's entertaining. Okay, really quickly. So, I have to assume at some point soon Mueller's going to wrap up. But so the potential Buzzfeed scoop, which was rebutted by Mueller, dropped on Thursday night, which was that Trump directed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress before Michael Cohen struck a plea deal and everything and was still working for Donald Trump and stuff. So then Mueller's team comes out the next day, and by this point we all know. We've all heard. Mueller comes out the next day, doesn't dispute the whole report, but I think the statement was there are some parts of the report that are factually inaccurate, blah, 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 blah. So my specific thing here is why now? When I first read this, I'm thinking, and I'd like to know what you guys were thinking when I'm done. When I first read this, I'm thinking, why now? Because Mueller's team would never make a statement before either. And there's been, in the last 2 years, plenty of factually inaccurate things, positive for Trump or negative for Trump, that have come out. And Mueller's team said nothing, put out no statements, just kept chugging along. And so I get into the Reddit comments underneath the mega thread. They always mega thread big events on Reddit. And I read something that made sense to me. So now the special counsel has to live in the era of Democrats controlling Congress. And after that one single report drops, that's probably not even 0.01% of the entire Mueller investigation, just one piece of the puzzle. There's so many pieces of this puzzle. We've been going through this for 2 years. We've been living this in real time. So one piece of the puzzle drops. That's big bombshell news. But now because Democrats actually control a part of Congress, there was legitimate talk of impeachment, right off the bat, by some Democrats. Granted, not all, but some. And the drumbeat was much louder than it otherwise would have been. And the theory on Reddit, and one that makes sense to me, and you can criticize if you want or agree, is Mueller's team has to get ahead now of Democrats pulling the trigger too soon, because some of them are obviously trigger happy and they need to calm the fuck down and just let the damn man finish. So the Mueller team just put out I think it was 1 or 2 sentence statement that was hey, look, this is not entirely accurate, just to calm it down. and so like people don't trip over themselves. You know, that makes sense to me. There's other things that could make sense.
No, I agree. I mean, there were
Yeah.
House congressional committees saying they were going to open an investigation into it.
Well, and that's fine. That
People
nobody has any issues
wanted to
with
move
that.
chess pieces based on this. Well, it's just like
It's the
Mueller
impeachment
comes
zone.
out and he goes, "All right, everyone, calm down.
Right.
Let it come when it does." And he disputed a few of these reports. I don't know. If anything, I think it gives more integrity to the Mueller team. Him coming out and putting a statement out like this.
For sure. But did you have any issues with their integrity before? Probably not. So
no, but you know what I mean.
No, I know.
They're like, hey, we're doing
someone
our
like
investigation.
Mueller,
we're trying to do it right. So.
Someone like Mueller in my mind is like a Jim Mattis, you know. Which once again, you should be sad is not working in the White House anymore. But yeah, I don't think. And actually, who knows what happens? Like, you know, wouldn't that be? I don't. I'm. At this point, we know that there's going to be a final report. There's been some things where, like, I guess the AG can not politicize it, but the Attorney General can stop a lot of it from getting released publicly.
Yeah.
Apparently, and I don't know enough about that to speak too much on it, but I mean, I'm just going to assume that there's going to be a report that comes out that details everything that happened, and that moment is going to be a huge moment. Like there's going to be so many people that have just been holding their breath waiting, either for him to be vindicated or for him to get the hammer dropped down on him.
Right.
And, like, can you think of anything else that's going to be bigger than that moment? And then, like, before 2020, I do not. Like, that's going to be crazy.
Besides the next election.
Whenever that drops, even if it's a nothing burger, like when the Mueller report drops, it's going to be everywhere.
If it's a nothing burger, then I think the pot will be stirred even more.
Why?
Man,
what?
If it's a nothing burger, maybe Trump wins again in 2020. Because I think as it stands right now, he doesn't win. If it drops and it's a nothing burger, I think he wins.
Yeah, he win, yeah. As always, it depends on what the other teams choose as their player against you. And last time, the other team chose a pretty poor player.
They did. They absolutely did.
So you always have to wait and see for that. But, and also when you get, what's also going to be interesting, and I thought about this when we were talking last time about 2020 and the Dems, Chad. When you get a president that's pretty vilified, I don't want to say Obama was vilified, but there was definitely a large section of the populace that did not like Obama and definitely vilified him. And when you rile people up against the person in charge, you're going to get a whole lot of people trying to run. Like the amount of Republicans that ran in 2016, you remember, it was so many, and it just felt like it was just Bernie and Hillary. I know there was like 3 other burglars, but they were nothing idiots. So not idiots, that's not nice, but they weren't competitive at all. It was just like Bernie and Hillary. But for the Republicans, there was like 18 people that Trump had a nickname for. And we already see like, we're like still pretty much 2 years away from the election, and there's like 700 Democrats running already. You're like, Jesus Christ. Like everyone's chomping at the bit to run against Trump. Like, geez. Which, by the way, be careful what you wish for. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
You got to make sure you have a good strategy. You can't. I always say, I'll make this analogy. I always say whenever I'm talking to football with people, it's like, dude, it's hard to win on the road. I don't care what team you are. If you're on the road, it's hard. Like, be careful what you wish for. Like, it's never quite easy to just win a national election. Like,
well, nobody thought Trump had any chance of winning in the first place, and look what happened. So,
correct.
Don't miss.
We got a lot of weird elastic voters that either vote for like hardcore. They just vote for who they think supports working people. And for a huge block of people that are like Midwestern, it used to be for Democrats a lot, and then they went for Trump in 2016, and that's what broke it. That like white working class Midwesterner elected Trump into office. That's why Sherrod Brown will be pretty good. He's a senator from Ohio, but all right. Anyways,
yeah,
we'll see what happens when the Mueller.
Well, somebody else announced their run for presidency today. Who was that?
Today, really? I don't know.
It was she's more of a
Kamala Harris.
Harris.
She's a corporate Dem. No thanks. Next.
Yeah, no, but it's just interesting that like it'll be interesting. 2020 will be.
How many are we up to at this point?
5 or 6, maybe. Beto
Could have officially announced that they're
Beto's
running
not
for the
running.
Democrat.
Beto hasn't announced.
Beto will. Well, so Elizabeth Warren
We'll
started
see.
a exploratory committee to see if she should.
No, Elizabeth Warren says she is running.
Oh, she is running. Okay, so Elizabeth
she
Warren.
is.
Kamala Harris. Who is that? Kirsten Gillibrand?
That's a
Gillibrand.
corporate.
Yep.
She's our senator.
Yep.
She's a corporate dem. Well, actually, she's not a corporate dem. She's too identity politics for me. She goes hard into the identity politics. I don't like it. It's way too much.
Omala. Bernie
Kamala
still
Harris.
has not had said anything.
Although I did see Kamala Harris. I think it said she supported single payer.
So I don't know. I'm waiting to see what else comes out. So
yeah, we'll see.
I mean, what's his name? Stroke's boy.
Careful what you wish for. Oh, Richard Ojeda. Hell yeah.
Oh, he officially.
But he was like one of the first ones. But listen, he's such a long
Ojeda.
shot, dude.
Hold on.
He's
Here's what I see as the list right now.
Right.
Julian Castro.
Ugh, I don't even.
John Delaney. Julian
Delaney.
Castro, San Antonio, Texas is where he was born.
Yeah, John Delaney apparently announced he was running like 2 years ago. I was like, what? Okay.
All right.
John Delaney, a U.S. representative from Maryland.
Really quickly, about that, he's a U.S. representative, so he literally just had an election, but was running for president also? Like, what?
Right.
That's just weird to me.
According to this, it says July 28th, 2017 is when he announced. And then Julian Castro announced January 12th, 2019. January 11th, 2019, Tulsi Gabbard, who currently that's my number one right now.
Tulsi, yeah.
Is that the Hawaii senator?
Bernie and Ojeda.
On this list here is Kirsten Gillibrand,
Yep.
U.S. Senator from New York. Kamala Harris, Senator from California currently. She was an Attorney General of California and a District Attorney in San Francisco. Richard Ojeda, West Virginia State Senator, currently, or just ended, and Democratic nominee for Representative in West Virginia. So he's in, and Elizabeth Warren also has.
I imagine we'll be seeing.
So let's get our token lefty here.
Well, so there's other ones.
Share his comments on each one. So,
go ahead. Give us one sentence for each one. Token lefty.
Well, hold on, real quick. Other declared candidates. I want to know if anybody even knows these people.
I will vote
Michael Arth.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Harry Braun.
No.
Are these also people running?
Yes.
Yeah, these aren't.
Are you on Ballotpedia?
These are like not the hardcore ones.
Are you on Ballotpedia? Because that would be a good.
I'm actually on Wikipedia.
Oh, Wikipedia, that also works.
It's pretty updated. Ken Uwanke Jr.
So I'm looking at a CNN one, and I'm going to go through all of the big names. I'm going to tell you whether I'd vote for them over Trump or I'd vote third party.
This is the libtard hot take. Take it away, Cyril.
Let's do it.
Kamala Harris, I'm voting third party. Julian Castro, I'm voting third party. I'm voting for Gabbard over Trump. I'm voting John Delaney. I'm voting third party. Richard Ojeda, I'm voting for him.
Okay.
And I feel sad. No, not sad. I feel kind of bad saying I wouldn't vote for John Delaney because I'm not sure totally about his platform, but I'm sure he's not going to blow me away. Andrew Yang of New York, I've seen his platform. He literally is more left than anybody here. He wants to go to straight.
Wait,
what's the Andrew Yang?
Gotcha.
Businessman of New York. He wants to go to UBI. He wants to go to like hardcore UBI.
Universal Basic Income.
Yeah. Like,
really?
Soon. Yeah, you should look into him. I'm voting third party. Kristen Gillibrand, I'm voting third party. Elizabeth Warren, I'm voting Elizabeth Warren over Trump. So those are the four.
Third party. That's where I disagree with you on that one.
That's fine.
Everything else I agree with you.
Elizabeth Warren, I would. There's something about her that makes me feel like she'd be good for working class, but there's also something about her that she could be Obama. So I'm not like, as of right now, and I say Obama in a negative way because he didn't get this lefties progressive things that he wanted done. So, and also didn't keep promises, which I guess none of them do, but still.
I honestly believe that the biggest thing that Tulsi has going for her right now is the fact that, and I know Cyril's going to tease me a little bit, she's been on the Joe Rogan podcast.
She is also a
shitload of views as well. So like there is name recognition as well as like a better understanding of her platform just based on that one.
Well, name recognition from Joe Rogan watchers, which is drop in the bucket when you talk about the country, obviously.
Well, sure, but
Elizabeth Warren has a much higher profile than Tulsi Gabbard does.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying specifically, though, is somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, a female, to go into a podcast which is generally listened to by all males,
she's fearless.
I think is a pretty big deal.
She's fearless. She's proved that, that she can go into any situation and talk with people and get along with people. And I specifically like her foreign policy. She herself is a veteran also, which I like her and Ojeda for that. I'm not gonna lie, I give preference to if you're a veteran, or even if you've been in the FBI or some sort of service, like that's fine, or like you're a cop, like there you go, right? So they're both veterans, and Tulsi Gabbard specifically just like goes hard in the paint on like, we don't need to be fighting all these crazy wars at the amount of numbers we have over there. Like, we can bring people home. So I'm a fan of that. I also have to say I was a fan of the announcements that Trump made about that, and then he kind of backtracked. So, but anyways, there's your token lefties positions on who do you vote for. Andrew Yang is you guys should look into him. He's super like, his UBI is pretty, he wants like, I think he's calling it Social Security for all. Which is interesting. He wants to make like Social Security UBI basically, which I guess, is what? Listen, what would UBI be but something like Social Security? Like it'd be the same thing. Like, why do you, I don't understand.
That's a huge undertaking.
Oh, sure. Okay, that's fair.
Fuck off,
Cyril. It definitely is.
Not every word out of my mouth is a fuck you to Cyril.
All right, well,
you're not that special.
You said what was on your mind, and that's fair. All right, calm down. You're not wrong. That would be a large undertaking, and I think I'm always an advocate of baby steps for certain things. Not things as egregious as Schedule 1 for marijuana. That's just, there's no baby steps on that. Just stop being stupid. But
one of the things that I always think about is how far are we away from the next New Deal?
We're only as far as we let inequality go. So hopefully it gets better.
When I listen to you, we've let it go quite a ways, right?
But look. I always admit, sure.
If we have one more financial meltdown, right? We had the 2000 bubble. We had the 2008 bullshit happen. If we have another one, that would be 3 in the span of what? 2 decades?
It's not unprecedented. We've got a whole history of.
Well, sure, but the severity of the ones as of late have been. I wish I was crushing, right?
I agree. I think I see where you're going with this, and I wish I could agree with you, but like we just don't learn a lesson.
But we did at one point, right? We did have a New Deal. Yeah. We did start Social Security. We did start Medicare. We did start infrastructure projects in the, what was it? That was the late 20s, early 30s before World War II? Or was it earlier than that?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Look, a lot of there's a lot of, and I feel like we've had this discussion many a time, there's a lot of different ways we can solve problems that face us. Like if we got a whole bunch of, I don't want to say better leadership, that's not the right way to put it, but if we got a whole bunch of leadership in high up in a good chunk of huge companies that decided to or for whatever reason, if there was money getting dispersed more evenly throughout the company, like especially a company like McDonald's or something like that, as opposed to what it is now, then there's ways to fix things, and good leadership in different places can do so. It doesn't have to be just government. That's crazy. But if we let things run away for too long and we just keep going on the path we're going, then I mean I feel like we've been able to stave off a lot of stuff too, because as technology gets better, then it's cheaper and cheaper to obtain a minimum standard of living, which is a good thing. Like technology has done that for sure. So there's always a give and take.